without further ado, it is now my pleasure to invite to the podium for introducing tonight's honoree and alum 1 year, Mark Sr., who has played sports with Mark, who shares many fond memories with him of their time together at Cistercian, but has also remained all through the years a close and a long-time personal friend. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Fred Hartnett of the class of '87.
Is this working? And those in the back here? Good? Thanks. I don't want you to hear it. Father Dennis, Father Peter, Father Paul. I know, saw Father Rock, I think Father Julius, Father Bernard, and I'm sure there are many others here. Good evening. When I was given this honor, I thought, well, great, I'll just get up here and rip Mark for a couple of minutes and sit back down. Then I heard I was expected to speak a little longer than just a couple minutes. And I thought, you know, he's an easy target and all, but that's really a lot of ripping. So then I thought to myself, well, hold on a second. Mark is a good man. He wouldn't do it to me. And he doesn't deserve it. But I'm going to do it anyway. The best part is, Mark, you have little recourse. Because I'm never getting this award. I know you're speaking next, but we all hope you have something more important to talk about than me.
I've got time.
When I sat down to gather my thoughts, I had a couple of guiding principles. Don't speak for too long. People will forgive a lousy speech if it's short. The other thing was to avoid too many cliches, but you'll hear that wasn't as easy as I thought it might be. The criteria for the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award. It's given annually to an alumnus whose spiritual commitment to Cistercian is very much aflame, and whose dedicated work on behalf of the Cistercian family enkindles our hope for the future. Mark's response to getting this award. I don't deserve it. I don't measure up to the other recipients. To that I say, Mark, you know they gave this award to my brother Jim, don't you? Tonight, I hope to explain why you deserve this award, Mark. One of the things I did to prepare for the speech is make some phone calls. It wasn't something, I'd like to tell you it was part of my planned due diligence and to show how thorough I am, but it was complete serendipity. I was in a law firm conference room a couple of weeks ago with a Cistercian dad who randomly brought up, he's here by the way, he randomly mentioned, did you see who won the Moroney Award? He's one impressive guy. My initial reaction was that he must have been looking at last year's announcement. But then he said Mark's name, and he told me something I had no idea about, and that is Mark's involvement with the Wounded Warriors. He told me that Mark was always there for Wounded Warriors, that he had volunteered to meet a group of mostly, or many of them severely disabled veterans to take them down for a hunt at Wolf Creek Lodge, I think it's called, drive them down there, spend the day, help them use their weapons, and just kind of show them a good time. And it ended up being canceled by the Super Bowl ice storm, but they ended up having, spending the day with these guys, and this Cistercian dad told me that Mark is always there for Wounded Warriors if they need him. I had no idea this happened. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to do a little more digging and find out what's going on and what Mark's up to. And when I called Mark and I asked him about it, what was his reaction? It wasn't, yeah, I helped out. It was, who told you that? So I realized there's a lot of positive contributions that Mark makes, but he's not going to tell you or me about them. It's not his way. So if I had to sum up what I learned, what I know and what I learned about Mark, it's this. Cliche number one. He's a man who quietly leads by example. Mark wasn't always this way. He was a carefree, fun-loving kid a long, long time ago who'd try anything once. His family's here tonight, and he's got a fantastic family. John, Marilyn, will you please just raise a hand? They were and are so proud of him going to Cistercian. His dad has a scrapbook of every clipping of Mark's experience at the school. His 3 siblings are here, Robin, Joe, and Mary Beth. They were nice enough. As part of my due diligence, they were nice enough to offer some contributions tonight, along with his mom and dad. Mark was known in his family as the golden boy. While in junior high, he wanted to look like Luke from General Hospital. So he saved his money and got a perm. It didn't work out so well. While teaching his little sister Mary Beth to play basketball, he constantly blocked her shots. He liked to date girls whose dads were upwardly mobile or well-known. His older siblings had to lock themselves in the bathroom to avoid him with a fireplace poker or some similar tool of destruction. A little temper, Mark. He started investing in mutual funds while in high school with his lawn mowing money. Mrs. Roppolo got a call one day while working as a nurse in the operating room from Father Rock. By the way, Father Rock, this is Marilyn's story, not mine. She said he's disrupting the whole class. And, Father Rock said that about Mark. And Marilyn asked, what is he doing? What is he doing? And Father Rock was very reluctant to say what the disruption was. He said, I got to know what it is. I can't talk to him without it. And he said, I'm sorry for this terrible imitation, but he said, well, Mark is repeatedly passing wind. I'm not sure how temporary that was, because as a naval pilot, Mark's call sign, it wasn't Iceman or Ace, it was Beano. One thing I admired about Cistercian a lot when I was there is that priest's ability to accomplish things with what I would call scholastically challenged kids. At my 25th class reunion over the summer, I told my classmate he was Exhibit A. When he came to Cistercian, it was in the 2nd form, and he was easily the dumbest kid in the class. He graduated the salutatorian. Now, I'm not sure that's not more of a comment on me and the other members of the class of '87. But Mark, you're Exhibit B. Speaking of Mark as a kid, this is what a friend wrote. The first week Mark had his driver's license, he drove us to the Galleria, probably to egg people on the skating rink from the 3rd floor, but you can leave that part out. The point is, he crashed his parents' car into a concrete pillar in the parking garage. I can speak for everyone in that car when I say, if you had told us that night that Mark would grow up to land helicopters on aircraft carriers, we'd got every plea against it. But as I said, he was a goofy, adventurous kid. He lettered in 5 sports at Cistercian. And then he turned into an old man overnight. It was 1987 and Mark was 17, and I still don't know why. It happened around the time he got serious about pursuing an appointment to the Naval Academy. The rest of us knew we had several years of college and lots of time to goof off. Some of us also had law school to goof off. But it's almost like Mark realized his easygoing ways were going to end in a year, and he might as well get a head start. He went to the Naval Academy, there for 4 years. He made superintendent's or the commandant's list many semesters, which I'm told is some big deal. Spent a semester in Air Force, an exchange program, only one of 6. What do they call you again? You're not an ensign. Midshipman, to get that honor. After he got out, he served for 9 years, most of it as helicopter pilot, with missions in the Caribbean, South America, doing counter-narcotics, and the Persian Gulf. He then worked in Washington. He represented Navy's review and release of technology and equipment to foreign countries. When he lived in Washington, he commuted to UT Business School, where he graduated in high honors. He did that on the weekends. I'm leaving a lot out about his Navy career. All it's going to do is make you feel inadequate. I suspect Mark excelled in the military because after 6 years with Hungarian monks, a drill sergeant, or whatever they call it in the Navy, was child's play. Mark's a VP and asset manager. He works for Parmenter Realty Partners, responsible for whatever, all aspects of managing investments in office, retail, and apartment properties. I'm not going to focus on his job because I find just about all work stories other than my own boring. So what does he do with his free time? Well, he doesn't want attention. He's not going to tell you about his involvement with Carry the Load. Lynn, Mark's wife, Lynn, is an ER doc, and their work schedules got shifted around. Her schedule did, and she had to work from 3 to 11, meaning that Mark was alone at home with the triplets and JP. And it was a last-minute switch. She got home at 11 o'clock at night and thought, well, Mark's going to take a pass on this event that he's supposed to do the next day. She got home. He was loading up all of his gear, tying his shoes and all that. And she said, aren't you going to skip this? And Mark said, I told those men I would walk, so I'm going to walk. I don't think I mentioned that this event starts at 1 in the morning. This was at midnight on Memorial Day weekend. And what you do is they go, it's to benefit veterans and families of fallen soldiers. And you carry a load, and in Mark's case, he loaded up a pack. He says it was 25 pounds. More reliable people say it was closer to 50. And he walked around White Rock Lake. This is around, the end of May, a hot time of the year. He did that for 11 hours straight. Mark's married to Lynn, is Wonder Woman. She doctors, writes, teaches, and moms. Her unusual schedule gives Mark a lot of responsibility. He cooks a lot of meals. He's good at it. The bad news is he bores the rest of us by using obscure culinary terms and recommending wine pairings. But mostly he's a homebody. He works out. He performs service. He doesn't hunt or fish or golf. He just goes home. He coaches, and he coaches his kids' team. I'm not saying he's any good at it. I was told to ask the record of your second grade team. Let me sum up the words his mom used. He's quite a sweet dad, which surprised me. He does other stuff too. He's active in the St. Monica's Dads Club and the parish where he's a lector. Participates in the St. Monica Men's Acts Retreats and Ministries of Spiritual Formation. He served on the St. Monica campaign for the church refurbishment project. I don't want to sound insulting, but Mark is not a very complicated guy. He's very well read, and he can speak with just about anybody on any topic. I was talking with Lynn, and she called Mark an economist. I thought that was an interesting word choice. I know that's his education, he's an economist. His siblings say he's tight, yet generous. Lynn gave me some examples of how rational Mark is. He wants 3 opinions on everything before acting. He wants to plan ahead. When they knew they were going to have triplets, Mark read a book on how to have healthy triplets. And part of it was that the mom needs to gain 70 pounds. And Mark made sure that Lynn gained 70 pounds. I wish Lynn would have let me use the photo I have seen of her stomach prior to having these triplets. It is unbelievable. And one exception, a gaping exception to Mark the Planner, is that when the triplets came, they were homeless. They had listed their house for sale and it unexpectedly sold fast. And the triplets came and Mark didn't feel right about buying at the time, and he recommended to Lynn that they would just move in with his parents.
Did not.
Was JP two and infant triplets, and he suggested that they move in with the parents. They thought when they had the triplets that they would have, oh, I left out one thing, that when Lynn was on bed rest, Mark took all of her credit cards and cut them up. He was worried that she was going to be bored sitting there in bed and run up a huge credit card bill. Well, when the babies were born, they thought, as is apparently normal when you have triplets, that they'd have a couple of weeks in the hospital, 2 to 4 weeks. But because Mark had made his wife gain 70 pounds, such healthy triplets, they were sent home right away, almost when a solo birth would be sent home. But since Mark had cut up the credit cards, they had no cribs and no clothes. So I realized that Lynn, calling Mark an economist, is just a friendly way of calling him cheap. Until I met Mark, I had no idea that the price tag at Sam's warehouse was just a suggestion. I didn't know you could negotiate with him on big ticket items until Mark taught me that. But he has always budgeted for Cistercian. Is that a cliche? No, that's just kind of cheesy. Lynn told me that outside of family, there are 2 organizations Mark will do anything for. It's the military and Cistercian. Cistercian's always been important to Mark. He and his parents were going to make sure that if he didn't get kicked out, he was going to graduate. When his parents had to relocate to Wichita Falls, Mark stayed behind for his senior year. He lived with his Aunt Ann, who's here tonight, and his Uncle George. When they first got married, Mark wanted to give a lot of money compared to what they had to Cistercian. Lynn came from a high school with thousands of students, and she didn't really get it. My wife was the same way initially. I imagine there are many wives in here who thought the same way. The rest of you are probably looking around wondering if you're the only sane ones in the room. As a very young alum, Mark was asked to give the football team a pregame speech by Coach Hillary. Those of you here who knew him know that was a big deal, a big honor. Mark was a member of the steering committee for the 50th anniversary capital campaign, $15 million target, and they made it. It's a heck of an accomplishment for a school our size. He's been heavily involved with the Alumni Association, including a term as president. Relax, I'm almost done. When I think about who my true friends are, who I know would help me out in any situation, my list would be heavily weighted with people from Cistercian, and most of whom are here tonight. Mark is right there among the top, and I'll bet there are several people in this room, if they compose such a list, Mark would be right there on the top. He won't talk about it, but he lives a commitment to helping others, a commitment to Cistercian, and a commitment to God. In an examination of his life, we can all find something there to inspire us. In closing, I want to quote one of his classmates, who is much funnier and a lot more succinct than I. Okay, it's Tim Rogers. He's right over there. Unlike Matt Hawkins, previous Moroney Award winner, he didn't make it to where he is today through laziness and fraternity connection. Dude has worked hard to improve himself on many levels. Also, I have no idea how he's managed to raise triplets and maintain those washboard abs. It's my honor to introduce this year's recipient of the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award winner, my friend, Mark Roppolo.